Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering every family has a story to tell. What is your family's story? Looking back can inform our journey forward, and your ancestors probably have so many important things to tell you if you look in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll learn the importance of preserving the past, how stories connect generations, and why unlocking the past can help us heal. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. There's so many different influences and touch points that make you you and make your family your family. There's ancestral, cultural, geographic. There's so many different factors that come into play, and it's so meaningful when you can dive in and really unlock the power of those stories. You know, what are the struggles that your relatives faced over the course of centuries and decades and generations? What are the wins? What are the triumphs? What are the struggles, the tragedies? Understanding the era in which they live and the way in which they lived inform the way that we live, inform the things that get passed down from one generation to the next. So it's so meaningful to be able to look back and be able to reflect on the people who came before us. These stories connect the generations. Your parents and your parents' parents lived so many different lives and so many different types of circumstances than you did. You know, I think about my grandparents, my mom's parents, you know, growing up in New York in the 1930s, 1940s. That was an interesting time for the world. Great Depression, World War II. It's interesting to think about the influences that they faced and how things are different today. My grandparents on my dad's side, you know, they had a party line phone where like it connected to 4 different houses in their neighborhood. So if someone else was on the line, you had to wait until they were off the phone before you could use the phone. You know, we think about cell phones today and how easy it is to talk to people. And it wasn't so easy a generation or 2 generations ago. Things were different. So the way in which we're raised and the way in which our relatives are raised influence so many different things. It's so important to preserve the past. You know, when people pass away, when generations fade out, those stories are gone if you don't preserve them. The stories are lost, which is a huge shame and a huge disappointment, you know? You want to be able to preserve these stories, and it can be so easy to do so. Start recording audio of these people as they're talking, your relatives, as they're telling these stories that you've heard 100 times. Because once they're gone, you're not going to hear those stories again. Be able to preserve these things because you don't want to lose them. You want to maintain them. You want to keep them. You want to be able to pass them down. It's so meaningful to be able to pass these stories down from one generation to the next. You know, just because they tell us where we've been. They tell us what our relatives were up to. You know, it's really meaningful to be able to cut through the noise and figure out what your specific family story is, because almost nobody else has the same family story. Even though our families kind of face the same issues over the course of time, every family story is different from generation to generation. I think about a specific family I've been working with and telling their story in a book, and one wave of the siblings was born in the 1930s and the other was born in the 1940s and 50s. And just that little gap of time means their childhoods were so different, so distinctly different. Just in those little gaps of time, things change so much, you know, and that informs the path that we live our lives on. So it's so meaningful to be able to document these things, preserve these things, capture these things, these little idiosyncrasies that pop up, because they really help inform the way that we view ourselves. You know, when you think about your relatives overcoming adversity, you need to understand what that adversity is. You know, what are the challenges they faced? You know, my grandfather and his brother, they started this garbage company in central Pennsylvania, goods disposal service, in the late 60s, early 1970s, and they carried this thing forward decade after decade. You think about the adversity they faced, the challenges they faced in growing this thing, you know, the hard work, the determination. You know, that means a lot to me, and those things carry forward for me when I think about effort for myself, when I think about progress for myself. You know, what did it look like for them? They were able to achieve so much together. It's special to be able to think about the sacrifice and the progress and the ups and downs that our relatives, our ancestors have faced, because it helps inform our own journey and the steps that we're able to take that maybe they weren't able to take. Yeah, education is a good example of that. A couple generations ago, it wasn't common for people to go to college, and when people did, it was a big deal. Especially women, early 1900s, they didn't have opportunities that other people in the future have had. So I think it's meaningful for us when we think about our relatives who weren't able to do as much as we are. They didn't have access to the same things we did. It really sends a message to me to make the most of things and to appreciate things. Things are constantly evolving, of course, but our relatives didn't face the same things that we faced. They didn't have the same opportunities. They're forced to grow up a lot faster in some cases, I think. And it just really gives me a lot of appreciation for the people who came before I did, just in the effort and the struggle and the challenges they faced in establishing themselves. Stories, too, they have a healing element. When you can really document your family's story and unlock it, it can help you heal. I think about my friend Rich Christensen, who had this really tender, heartfelt story about his family that he was telling. He wrote the book Blindsided. I helped him kind of bring it forward, and it brought healing for him. These were struggles. He was really knocked down, as he was going through the middle of this. And this has been something he had been struggling with for years to unlock and to find closure and peace and healing through the truth. And by being able to write a book about his challenges and obstacles and truth, and what it meant to carry forward in this new reality and find himself, he was a different person through that process. By unlocking his story, he changed his entire life. He was a different person afterward than he was before he wrote that book. And I'm so proud of him for being able to step into that and own it and find closure with it. When I was talking to him, during the process, as we were working on the book, he was really hurting. He was really having a tough time with it. And to see his eyes and to see his peace in the years afterward, it's been awesome. I just think it's a great thing to see the fact that unlocking our stories and telling our truth and sharing it can bring healing. Ultimately, stories from our ancestors can inspire us. They force us to dig deeper on our own lives, to understand ourselves better. When we can understand how our relatives responded to challenges and overcame or didn't overcome, it can inform us as well. If they did it, so can we. Or if they did this wrong, what can we do differently? What can we actually learn? This is about learning lessons from the past. The past has so much to teach us if we just look for it. If we just miss this stuff and move forward, we're just effectively letting the past fade out without learning anything from it. That's a horrible thing. I want to learn everything we can. I want to bring every single power, every single truth from the past that exists and inform the way that I approach my life. And you should be the same way with your family. Your family stories from the past can really shape the way that you approach the future. They help us better understand what can we do differently, what can we do better. When you think about the lives of your relatives, what can you learn from those lessons? What can you take away from them? I just think it's really meaningful when we can dig deeper and explore those things and really use them for our own purposes, to make the most of our own lives. And then that ties into the documentation too, of being able to get this thing down on paper, on audio, somewhere, to record these things, to help be able to pass this story down to the future so that it doesn't get lost, not just on our ancestors, but on us. If you want to learn more about Every Family Has a Story to Tell, there's another video I recorded that I'd love for you to check out. I'll link to it on the screen. It's called How to Write a Family History Book. In that video, I dive much deeper on the writing process, on the research process, on what it takes to bring a book forward about your family, and writing the book that's going to empower you and carry your message forward for future generations. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.